Good morning, everyone. So I want to first start with this question for all of you today. Isn't our world is in a crisis? We can feel it every single day now, more than ever before, that the world is in a crisis. You can unmute and share and speak about it. Do you agree that the world is in a crisis?
Yes, Niti, on so many levels, completely agree.
On so many levels. And of course, we are living in a time where we have immense technological advancement. Yes, never been such a support, such a deeper understanding of the world, science and technology than ever before. It is also a time which needs a very deep, a fundamental action on a very fundamental level to save us from, reaching that point of no return. And it is just going to be very it will not be helpful if we still live in ignorance, if we are still ignorant of the fact in front of us that we are in a crisis at so many levels, as you rightly mentioned. And who is going to face all that crisis? Who can possibly uh, act upon to save us from that crisis? It is our children, the future generation that we are upbringing today. It is again going to be, we are going to live in a dilemma or a delusion if we feel that our children are just going to live their individual lives. They're just going to, find a good job that pays them well, and they're going to be happy in life. That's a very individualistic way of looking at life. It is very important for us to realize that we are so interconnected. Each nation is interconnected. People in a specific nation are interconnected. People in a specific state and a society we are living in, they're all interconnected. People, we have never lived in isolation. I mean, after the understanding of agriculture, we have never lived in isolation. So it is a delusion, and we are going to continue to offer that delusion to our children if we believe that we can live our individual lives without um, making an impact to the collective society. Because individuals are, society is made up of these individuals. So every individual is important. It is important that every individual is taking action, which is uh, sustainable on a very fundamental level. And it is important that this individual that we are talking about has reached its full potential. The human beings that we are talking about have reached their full potential. And that is why, Montessori approaches education with the understanding of the human being, the scientific understanding of the human being. It is not based on the industrial model of the world, that works with products that we have come up with. It does not work the same way on human beings. So if we really, clearly understand this idea, this concept in the world that we are living together, and we have to live together in harmony for all of us to benefit, for all of us to survive and continue to thrive on the planet, only then we can really help our children reach their full potential. Only then we can really help the future generation. So today, we have already been in this system for quite a while now, in this system of understanding of the natural development of the human being as nature intends it to be. And now we are interested in what holds in the future. So I will quickly show you this graph that Dr. Montessori has made for us to understand. So here you can see this is the bulb model of there are two graphs that she designed to fully. I mean, there is so much detail in this. It looks simplistic, but there is a lot of detail. Everything is captured in this graph. So here we start, from birth. And in fact, she says that development of the human being starts in the womb, right? The very dark phase of life where it's still very mysterious. We are still trying to understand what happens. So the child is born with fully functional body. It has all the organs that it needs to live, but it still has to develop the mind. So a newborn baby is actually not a full human being. Physically, it has all the organs, the legs and the limbs and the head, the heart, the stomach, etc. Physically, they are there, but the mind is still to develop. The faculties of the mind are still to develop, which happen after birth. So the period from birth to 6 is actually formation of man, she has mentioned here. So man is still developing. The human being is still developing to be called a human being. And the work here is both unconscious in the beginning, unconscious absorption, and then conscious absorption. And the child forms himself into a human being with the use of the hands. So we don't say learning, Dr. Montessori has never used the words learning or schooling for that matter. She has always talked about development. So development means something being created. It is much larger than mere acquiring of knowledge. So there is something which is being formed in the mind to be used in integration with the body. And she has never looked at the psychological development of the being and the physical development of the being as separate. It has to be in conjunction. A man able to use hands without the head is not a complete man, is not a complete human being. Similarly, a human being able to use the head without being able to use the hands is not a complete human being. So this integration of the mind and the body is extremely, extremely crucial for the full potential development of the full potential of the human being, what we call as a human, which is very different from what we understand of other animals. And then, after 6, the child, it is a child, is very, very different from the child up till 6. The child of 6 is a fully developed man in many aspects. Now, there is immense curiosity, there is a hunger for intellectual knowledge. There is a hunger to understand how to understand the society, understand the peer groups, because up till 6, they were fully focused on their self. They did always have a community. Montessori education is never, development of the individual alone. It is always in context of society. But the society until 6 is a society formed by love of the family, of a Montessori environment where there are other peers, of a mixed age environment, where they are working together, but they are not working as a team, as a collaboration. They are working on their self. The development is more inward. The outlook is not yet outward. They are still understanding their self, and that is why this bulb here is marked as red, because there's a drastic development of the human being. Such development never happens ever in life. Because it's a huge, huge, drastic development. And then, after 6, they are more interested. It is a much more calmer and stable time in children's life. They are very robust physically. They don't get ill as often. Um, they are full, dress them, bathe them, help them eat, work with their hands with the materials, wind up. So many things that the child is able to fully manage. Independence, physical independence. But it's not complete independence. So from 6 to 12, they're seeking a mental independence, an intellectual independence, and a moral independence to understand how we can work together in teams, how to collaborate, what is okay to do with others and what is not okay to do. So, and they want to know everything. They want to know everything about the universe. And that's why they have questions from history. They are able to imagine reality. They're able to understand reality which they have never experienced. History, the time when Earth first formed, the Big Bang, the time, when life started on Earth, but there were no human beings. They're able to synthesize and imagine all of that knowledge, the human knowledge that we have so far, with their mental capacities, which was not possible under 6. So then, you know, uh, they are able to understand society. They want to know. That is why we have the going outs. They need to know how to be in society. What are the different roles of the people who are making up this adult society? So they just want to understand and experience. So they go, they experience, but they come back in their family, in their uh, Montessori elementary environments. And then again, we see, our children after few more years, they are going to enter a new phase of life. They're going to be 12 and older. From the 12 to 18, we call it the third plane of development, which is drastically different from the first two planes. In fact, it is much drastically different from the second plane of development than it is with the first. That is why we see the red color here again. Again, there is this time of turbulence. There is a time of drastic changes, both in the mind, in the brain, and the body. The children undergo puberty. There is a lot of hormonal influx in the body. And now uh, these human beings are no more children. They cannot be called children. They don't recognize themselves as children. So childhood was up till 12. Your sons and daughters are no more children when they are 12. They have reached a new phase in life, which we call as adolescence. It's a young adult. The, 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 the adolescents are preparing for adult life. If we call them and treat them like children, we are thwarting them. And they need a very, very different kind of environment because their needs and characteristics are very different. And that is why Montessori education is based on the understanding of the human being. We only provide sufficient and necessary means for this human being to self develop, to auto educate. Nature already has a plan in place. We just have to understand it and we have to offer the right guidance. We have to create a conducive environment for them to grow. So, I was trying to share and explain that the children, the adolescents now at 12 are no longer children. We cannot treat them as children. They don't consider themselves as children. And they definitely cannot, have the same kind of environment or support that we offered children at until 12. They have left the phase of childhood. Now they have to prepare to become an adult. The phase of adulthood begins, and that is why we call them adolescents or young adults. And their developmental task, now the development that has to happen in the body and in the mind, has to be very, it is very different from what, the task was when they were children. At the age of 12 and from 12 to 18, they need to experience and live adult society. But we know that the adult society that we all live in right now is very unprepared. It can be actually very scary for these adolescents, because also the society has become very complex, isn't it? From when we had the agricultural societies, it has become very, very complex, and so complex that it can be distracting and very unconducive for adults also, with all the technological advancements and with the many distractions in life. So these adolescents still need a very prepared environment, but it has to have all the elements of adult life. They need to live and function as adults in a community of 12 to 18 age groups. They have to fully manage doing all the adult work that we do in daily life. So they need to do the washing, the cooking together, the shopping, the producing. They need to study. So these centers, we call, Dr. Montessori called them, this age group, Erd-Kinder, the children of the land. These environments are suggested to be in countryside, in a farmland, away from the distractions of the city life. This is where they can truly find themselves, because this age group has a lot of turbulence. There's a drastic development in the body, as we know, and it's not just the body. These hormones, the puberty that they experience, it's such a big impact on their brains. It's actually like reconstruction of the brain. Of course, there are elements that they have already developed in the brain, but they have to restructure completely to form an adult brain. And this is not only what Dr. Montessori is saying. The current neuroscience, with all the tools, the brain scanning, the understanding, are proving every single thing that Dr. Montessori says. And I will show you an article, and there are many more articles such as that which prove so. Here, the changes in the adolescent brain. The changes that occur in the adolescent brain produce ways of thinking, being, reasoning, relating, focusing, and making decisions that cannot happen at any other time. So I hope we understand it, that this time is not merely for acquiring knowledge. It's not merely for acquiring bookish human knowledge. That is definitely a part of it. But it is only a part. There is a whole lot of development that needs to happen. And of course, they need to be supported, for that development to happen. This is driven by two primary things: the maturation and development of key areas of the brain during this time, and because of the brain's malleability, its ability to change with experience. So we cannot have the children understand this only by talking and lecturing and reading through books. They have to really live it, they have to experience it. The experiences adolescents have in the classroom, in their communities, on teams, in plays, on the job, will have a huge influence on how their brains develop. So, and it continues to say, this was specifically written during the time of the pandemic. If they are filled with blame, their experiences, if they are filled with blame and shame, as opposed to affirming, they will have very different influences on the development and health of the emerging adolescent brain. So this is very, well researched now, that the adolescent brain goes through a drastic change, which is an inward change. They don't know themselves. They are still trying to figure out who they are with respect to society. They become very self-critical. They are constantly trying to understand if they are good enough, if they are capable enough, if they are valued by others in the society. So some of the characteristics of adolescence. It is a time for tremendous physical growth, sexual maturation. Yes, sexually they are able to, they are able to reproduce. But are they really able to take up that responsibility? It's just like a newborn baby has all the physical, organs to function as a human being. But is it ready to walk? Is it ready to talk? It needs to still develop. And they have boundless energy, which needs to be directed in a positive way. Emotionally, it's a time where they are developing self awareness. It's a very uncertain time emotionally. They go through a self critical age and they feel like everybody is watching them. I hope you remember some of your own experiences as adolescents. We become very self aware, what kind of clothes we are wearing, what do others think about us. Socially, they need solidarity with peers. They need to identify with certain values, with a race, with a gender, with an ethnicity. It is a very critical, um, they're very critical of especially adults. They will question your rules and beliefs, morally and ethically. And they are seeking increased independence. Now, the independence that children had until 12, that is not sufficient for them. They have already attained that. They know how to take calls. They know how to, inform the school if they are unwell. They know how to take care of themselves and their environments. They know how to cook in a simplistic way, right? They know so many things in the kitchen. They know how to study by themselves. They know how to find information. They have a lot of information from their elementary age. They are being introduced to so many, elements of human knowledge, which is not restricted to a certain syllabus. Now they need to apply all of that knowledge in real practical work, in the countryside, in a community, at the farm. They need to grow their own food. They need to sustain themselves. They need to earn a living for themselves. They need to feel capable of financial earning. And then they need to make a variety of decisions of how to use that money, how to create a budget for their food, because they may not produce everything that they need for food. They may have to step outside of their environment to, be in the outside nearby neighborhood to purchase things, and to even sell things that they are producing as surplus. So this kind of interaction, with the society at large, with strangers, they need as a community with very minimal adult support. So they need to understand that as a community, they are capable of sustaining their own living. As a community, they are able to impact and make a change. They can build something together, build structures, do construction work, and they are able to study together parallelly with that work. Work and study. That's what these centers are also called. The Earth Kinder environments, the programs are called centers for work and study in parallel. And actually, their cognitive characteristics are also very interesting to observe. This is a very critically, they can think critically and they can reason out with their mind. They are capable of very mature thought. It's a very creative age for them. They express themselves creatively through drama, through music, through poems, through literature, through art and movements, through dance. It's a very, very creative age for them. But they have to, apply what they have learned. They have to see the practical applications. It cannot stay till the bookish understanding. Intellectually, their capacity reduces, in fact. And it is natural because their physical changes are so much. Their body is going through so much change, their intellectual capacity is bound to reduce. But that doesn't mean that they are not intelligent enough. It's just that it is not their priority. And if you look at the traditional systems that we have all we have gone through, and they're still very popular in our societies, there is a lot of focus, undue focus on uh, intellectual learning in this age group, and mostly through rote. It's not that these adolescents are naturally not capable of learning, but they have to learn in a certain way. They have to learn in a way where they can apply that knowledge and do experiments, do live experiments, not only in a laboratory. The farm is actually a space for their laboratory. It's a tool actually, just how the CASA and the elementary environments have all these materials displayed, the concrete materials displayed with which they manipulate. Now, for the adolescents, the farm space and everything in the farm, from animals to crops to nature to the soil, to this community, the social community, everything is a tool, a material for them to manipulate and understand and live society. And all of our science that we know today, we know that it has come from the land, agriculture, and it is a place where they also get introduced to history, to the journey of humanity so far. And they come to really appreciate that, right? So these are some of the characteristics of the adolescents. So they need a space away in the countryside which is very peaceful, where they can feel solitude, where they can feel one with nature. And I have lived this experience myself, and I can tell you that no other experience in the whole world can give them the kind of opportunities and the kind of solitude and the kind of understanding of life where, other than these countryside spaces where there are no tall skyscrapers around, the hustling and the bustling of city life, the chatter. Even, when these adolescents, when they come back from home, because it's ideally a residential environment, they say that my house is so noisy. There is almost always so much noise in my house. And although these houses are just like normal family life, they still find it noisy. So they do need a kind of solitude that, that their heart and soul is looking for, so that they can understand life fundamentally. So they need time for physical activity in the open air, with the fresh air, away from the pollution and the noise. They need time for relaxation and contemplation. And what best space to contemplate other than being so close to nature? Emotionally, they need meaningful work. Again, always Montessori environments have offered purposeful work for the children, not never artificial work which has no purpose. Meaningful work, creating structures on the farm that are necessary for them to sustain their life, producing crops, uh, studying for the purpose of working on the farm. They need opportunities to contribute to their communities, because they are cooking not just for themselves or two people or three people. They're cooking for the whole community, and they're taking turns to do that. They are cleaning their community spaces. Socially, they need to build this community. They need to understand how to build a society, how to be there for each other, how to become a reliable person, how to form close relationships with peers and with other adults in the farm space. There are many adults also, adult role models who live and work with the children, with the adolescents. And such relationships that the children make in the farm, the friendships that they make are lifelong. I mean, they're long lasting, and they don't have just one or two close friends. They get to work alongside each and every one of their peers. Each and every one is important. They have their own strengths. No, even if you don't, perhaps agree with somebody's nature or somebody's personality on a personal level, you still realize that they have meaningful contributions for society, that they, you do get along in other ways. So this ability to really become an adult and be able to work with anybody, no matter what the limitations, is something that is very crucial. And we know that we struggle through our own relationships with co-workers, colleagues, and our own families. They learn to appreciate parents more when they stay away, and they understand the role of the parents is so important. And cognitively, they need opportunities to express creatively with new interests and thoughts and emotions. They need to acquire flexible and inquiring habits of the mind. This um, systems thinking. We need systems thinkers who are able to look at the big picture of life and not get lost in the nitty-gritties and the details. Of course, they are important, but always connecting to the big picture of life. And like I said, the world is in a crisis which needs to be fixed. And I mean, there is no one person or politician or a Mahatma Gandhi who would fix everything. Each and every of these, our children, our sons and daughters are important, and they are going to fix it. They have to. There is no other way. So these are some of the needs and characteristics. And this, education that I'm talking about here is not new. It is very well established. This concept is already existing on each and every continent of the world. There are centers of work and study, the Earth Kinder programs all over in all continents of the world since 1990s. One of the first such schools is Hershey Montessori School in Ohio. And we have a strong body of graduates, of Montessori graduates, who have undergone these education system, and they are uh, the real testimony to what this education offers and produces. So we are talking of this new kind of human being that Montessori also talked about through her observations, scientific observations of human beings. So we are definitely not talking about something which is not being tried and tested. So we can definitely embrace it with confidence and surety. And we have trainers, my own trainers, their children have gone through this education through their adolescence. And they say very confidently and clearly that this is the greatest gift that they could give their children as parents. So we need to understand that Dr. Montessori came to this work not as an educationist. She was a scientist. She came to this work as a psychologist and an anthropologist. Somebody who studies human history, humanity. And from all of these fields, she brought her skill of very careful, objective scientific observation, through which she came to this understanding of human development, which, as I said, neuroscience today is constantly proving. There are many, many articles, there's a lot of literature around this, and many other people, Sir Kin Robinson, many other people, I think his name is Simon, whom we also see on the social media, is talking about such development that is necessary. So it is definitely more than just acquiring of knowledge, which is a byproduct actually through the work and development of this human being. And it is a long journey. We cannot say that by this age, so and so should have been known, because it is a long journey through which the human being continuously gets introduced to knowledge, applies that knowledge, tests it, tries this, experiences it, and then internalizes it. It's a long journey till 24 years of age. It is a very, very crucial age, and from our own experiences in traditional schools, we know that we have been scarred, we have been humiliated in little and big ways, and we do carry that with us in life. We have not reached our full potential. We know that. Otherwise, we would have lived very different lives as adults. And we do not want that for our sons and daughters. This is a sensitive time for personal dignity and justice. These adolescents, they are trying to prove that they are capable and capable. They need to feel that they are valued in society, that each and every adolescent in this program uh, is needed in the world to provide for something. We call this in Montessori, we call this valorization of the personality, the human personality. It's not, and it's the kind of responsibility which is not about that somebody has been assigned a chore and that they have to do it. It needs to come from within without somebody asking. That I'm responsible to respond to this need in society, that I am needed. So each adolescent in this, when we talk about this Earth Kinder program, each adolescent feels that they are needed for the community life, that they are capable of coming together as a community and sustaining in harmony. That is when they reach their full potential. And I know that this is the most common worry of parents, that they will be away from us. We are not ready yet to part from them, but it is not really parting ways. It is some time spent away from the family, because they need to experience their role beyond family. They need to, because they don't need the role of the child in the family anymore. And when these adolescents do come back in holidays and in breaks, etc., you see a different human being. You see that they feel so more close to you as parents, because now they see your value. Because in the home environments, we know that we cannot provide them this conducive environment. Neither can they find this conducive environment in traditional school setups, unfortunately and very sadly. So they feel stuck. They feel, it's a harsh reality that they feel stuck in their childhood, when really what they need is to become independent adults. So, I mean, these are testimonies from all the parents who have already made this decision, that when their children, their adolescents, they return from the farm, um, they come back with a more powerful bond with their own sons and daughters. It's the time that they experience that was totally theirs, and they were never treated as children. So that is also something, because we were always not ready, isn't it? When when a child is born, it's actually a very difficult understanding for the mother to understand. Now the child has come out of my womb and it is a separate being. That's also a milestone that the child and the mother achieves. And when it's a time for the child to now crawl around and explore around in the house, again you go through that second phase of reality of the child being away from you, because they are independent. So if you observe life, how nature intends it to be, you will see that the child is moving away from the parents gradually. But it's not that emotionally they are away or spiritually they are away. You will always be a family, and in fact you will be more strongly together if the child was allowed to achieve that independence which it needs to at each phase of their life. So we are very lucky to have such spaces in India as well. There are many farm schools, kinder programs which are coming up in our own country, which is, I mean, it's not in the Delhi NCR. I mean, I'm sure in the near future, we would definitely have programs here as well. But until then, I mean, this is an option for all of you to explore the farm schools. And in fact, there are parents who are sending their adolescents from abroad to India to be a part of these setups. And I have lived in one of those myself, and I can vouch that they're really safe environments. And Zorian will soon join us, and he will also talk about, if you have any questions, specific questions to him, you can ask him, and he will very graciously answer those. He has himself been a Montessori student, as we shared with you that he um, was a Montessori child, um, and he spent his adolescence in the work and study center in Sweden, which under my trainer Jenny Hugland. So he will talk about that. Um, until then, if you have any questions, I have some pictures to show you. And while we talk about the questions, we can look at these beautiful pictures of Quinta Essentia, the farm school that Zorian has set up. Just share. Yes, I hope you can see the slides. This is the entry, and the signboard that you see here of Quinta Essentia is the work of the adolescents themselves. In fact, this land you will also see in the pictures ahead was very barren. The adolescents used to stay in a nearby guest house, and they used to visit this place every day, frequently, and then gradually they have developed this whole farm school. They have put up, so they did the carpentry work. They got up with the ladders, etc., and have put up this signboard with the chains themselves. So a lot of mathematics, work of the hand, and of course artistic expression was involved. This is the entry, and then this is one of the scenes in the paddy fields there when I was completing my residential module. That's me in the maroon t-shirt. When you are in this field, I was very apprehensive, but it was an amazing experience. The water, your legs kind of go, sink in almost to your knees, and you have to. We are weeding here. We are weeding the rice field, the paddy field, and so much of science is learned. You feel so relaxed and rejuvenated when you are in nature. You feel very calm, and it's something that I cannot express. I will always fall short of the words. This is the map that they had created for their farm school. That's the entry and so forth. And it continues to build. There is always work to be done on the land. Always work to be done, and work for each and every one. These are the huts, the mud huts that we used to stay in. Very simple life, very rich life. There is richness in simplicity. I'm sure if any of you had experiences out in nature, in treks, etc., you would see that you live a very much more wholesome life. Again, the inside of the hut is very basic, very simple. What is necessary and sufficient for a good life? This is the dining hall. They live as a community. So if 7:30 or 8 is the breakfast time, everybody has to be there. Otherwise, we wait for them to start. Nobody eats until everybody's there. But they do, develop a sense of schedule and responsibility for their time. They learn to manage time really, really well. I mean, we all know that we don't manage time so well, right? They manage time really well. Everything is cleaned by them. The adults are not doing their work. They are not cleaning or cooking for them. They have to live by themselves completely. This is the study hut. This is my favorite part of the farm because the way it is structured, the aerodynamics, it's very beautifully windy and pleasant to be inside and study. And imagine, being in traditional setups and studying in closed walls with air conditioners and fans, and here you are out in nature everywhere. All directions that you look at, you will experience sounds and the smells and the winds. It's an unmatched experience. This is the view at the night. We live close to animals. There are frogs and lizards and, of course, chameleons and all sorts of creatures, also snakes. And we learn to to coexist with them, to not be afraid, to learn ways in which we can live in harmony, and of course, lots to study about with these also, their behaviors. Beautiful sunsets and sunrises. I mean, here I crave for that. When I wake up in the morning and I reach the window and all I see is tall buildings and some distant hue of red and pink, it's just not the same experience. The laundry. Um, Adolescents feel, when they pass through these programs, they feel amazed and surprised that how do my peers, my adult peers, don't know how to do their laundry. How can they not know how to cook? How can they not know how to manage their finances and their time? How can they not learn and study for the pleasure and the, sake of learning? Should learning only be about getting more marks from my friend? If I write a better answer than my friend and that is how I feel happy about my success, that's a very, very narrow way of thinking and living. And you've already seen our elementary children also don't feel like that. They are supportive of each other so much and they know how to collaborate. This is the banana saplings that we planted. So we learned to use many, many tools. The hands and the mind, the body was fully integrated in each experience here. This is the tool room. We learn to use lots of tools that we as adults, we never learned in our childhood. I mean, I know how to weed a field now, and I take great pleasure in doing that. It gives you a kind of feeling of, that I am capable of your own capabilities that no other kind of work can give. This is the herbal garden. So they eat very good, wholesome food, very nutritious food. They have herbal tea in the morning. And you can imagine the kind of learning that happens naturally, experientially. This is the cowshed, which also, our previous batch built and then we helped rebuild. So they could also, reach the top of the roof and do things. They are, very adventurous and risk takers. So, any questions, any thoughts that we would like to see you? If possible, it's okay if you're, doing whatever. If you can open your video and really, it's really okay. It will be really helpful if we can see you. Yes, and for Zorian also. This has been a much awaited session. Since 2019, when I first attended the adolescent workshop in Hyderabad, I have been meaning to share a lot of experiences with parents. And finally, we have been able to, Zorian also could find time to meet all of you and answer questions. It is a very vulnerable, just going through my notes and seeing if I missed sharing any point. So they need protection. This age needs protection from the ills of society, which hopefully they will later fix as a fully mature adult. And they, of course, need to live society in a prepared way. And in fact, the environment is very well prepared, just like the first plane. This plane is very, very similar to the first plane in terms of its characteristics in certain ways. They also need a lot of sleep. They do feel fatigue. They are also prone to illness. So they need this natural environment really helps them to maintain their health in terms of food and nutrition and fresh air, being close to soil. It builds their immunity.
Niti, what time is Zorian joining?
At 11.
At 11. Okay.
Yes.
So there is an interesting anecdote that one of the parents shared some time back. We have a parent in Casa community, and he
Zorian is here.
is pursuing a PhD from a university in the US, and as a part of that coursework, he has to take lectures and classes with undergrad students, and he was taking those classes during the pandemic with a couple of well, I think it was a class of undergrads, and there were certain students that he noticed were handling the entire situation around pandemic and their work and everything very differently from others, and he began to dig deeper into what makes these students work on these things so differently than others, and he found what their educational experience has been in school, and they went to Montessori schools for primary CASA and adolescent programs, and that was what actually got them so interested in this education that they moved from Delhi to Noida and then had their daughter join the school. This was, I think, almost a year and a half back or 2 years back. And I wanted the parents' name is Asim, and someday, I mean, if parents are interested, he was happy to share what he sees as an educator, where he's working with now college students, and what were his observations that sort of really stood out for him in terms of the capabilities of these Montessori alumni, if I can call them. And that, I think, also gives us a window to listen from a fellow parent, their observations on what life skills these children develop that remain out of reach for many of the students going to traditional education, and then of course they have to relearn, and either you do these self-help programs and so many other challenges that people experience in their life because of the lack of these skills. And if Zorian has joined, Niti, is he
Yes.
on?
Welcome,
Yeah.
Zorian. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. So we've already had an introduction, a basic introduction, Zorian, about the
Okay.
adolescent program, about my experiences also. So we would love to hear from you.
Great.
Yes.
Sure.
So yeah, they all know about you yet.
Okay, fine. So probably what I will do is I will try to show as many photos as I can, because I think photos always is good. Is a good experience to really try to visualize what it is we're talking about. So I'll try to share a PowerPoint just now.
Niti, could I just suggest, Zorian, you do start with a brief introduction. I think it will be good for parents to hear from you, your experience, and also your own education as a Montessori child and now Montessori alumnus, having completed all programs.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
So so basically, right now I am directing Center, which is one of India's first farm school adolescent programs. So Montessori says that the adolescent program should really be based on a farm, and I think we'll get into why that is the best environment for them. I'll show you some photos and talk about that. And for me personally, this has been a very great experience in the last 4 to 5 years in setting up this program. I have actually graduated also from the adolescent program, but in Sweden. So that was is one of the well-established Montessori secondary schools in Europe under Jenny Marie Hoagland. So she's one of the world's AMI world leading trainers in adolescents, for adolescents. And so having graduated from that program, I then went to do my BSc and bachelor's in environmental science in England. And that was also a great experience where I took a lot of good experiences. And from there, I started to do some internships, which brought me to India. Having done that for some time in India, I met the school here, or one of the schools here in Pondicherry, and they had the plan to start the adolescent program. So I thought, okay, it's very interesting that having gone through the program, I'm now meeting a school just by chance, which has the idea of this year to set up the program. So I thought, let's collaborate and see what we can do. It's been a really great experience and I'll share some of the experiences that we've had. So then I've also done the training through Jenny Marie Hoagland and her training center in Sweden for the diploma as well. And as part of this, I also brought Jenny to India, where she has now led 2 diplomas and 1 orientation for the adolescents in India, which has helped to get started this work in India, I think. So from here, there are many schools which are starting, either elementary schools which are now want to go on to the adolescents, or adolescent programs themselves which are coming up. So as of now, we have mostly in South India, in Chennai, in Bangalore, South India, like South Tamil Nadu, like Coimbatore, Kanyakumari, Mumbai, Pune, they're starting. And I hope soon in the north also we will have something set up.
Yeah. And Hyderabad too, I think, Zorian, right?
And Hyderabad, sorry, yes,
yeah.
of course, Hyderabad,
So,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I would love to hear your questions, probably either in between. You could just try to raise your hand, or at the end. I think that's one of the best ways to try to have some dialogue on it. But let me share some. So what I will do is, I think I'll have a small introduction to the adolescents, and then as we go through, I will try to share photos on our program to show what we have done. Are you able to see the screen now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, fine. So I think it's very important to understand, as Montessori did, adolescents and who they are in particular, because we should not think of adolescents as, an elementary child who is just bigger and wants to do something different. We should not see that child as a continuation. Okay, so we should see adolescents as a completely new being almost. Going through the transition from childhood, now we can say childhood has come to an end. We say now that they're looking towards adulthood. So when we think about adolescence, we should try to think in this mindset, whereby we think, okay, so this child has come and has gone through primary, has gone through elementary, and now they're really seeking something different. And I'm sure that's quite obvious for you, right? When you think about adolescents, how they're very much different in terms of what their interests are and how they see the world, how they see and how they want to have different experiences. So this is all, I'm sure, something that we are aware of adolescents. So if we think about them, why do we think a farm school would be such a prepared environment, or such a great environment for them to spend their adolescent years, at least in school? And for this, we need to understand their characteristics and their needs. So maybe perhaps Niti has shared with you already, but it's really around try to understand that they're going through this transitionary period, right? They're going through puberty, for one, on the physical side, and this also brings with it a lot of psychological changes, right? So their brain is rewiring, and alongside that, they're trying to build their personality, their adult personality, right? Who they're going to become as an adult. So if you imagine all of these things are going on, then it's quite a turbulent time for each adolescent. And so
Zorian?
for this,
Yeah. Sorry. Are you on the next slide?
please tell me.
Are you
Yeah.
on the next slide? Okay, but because we can only see the first one. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we can
Are
put
you-
it in the slideshow mode. Right now, it's not in the
Yeah.
slideshow mode.
Okay, I'm putting in slideshow mode, but
Oh, I see.
Oh, I understood. You have to.
Share only that window.
oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay,
if you
okay, I
share your
cannot
whole
change.
Yes.
Okay, give me one minute.
Sure.
I'll stop sharing. And... You can't see the changing slides now?
No.
No?
No.
Hmm.
Yeah. Now it changed now.
Yeah, it's changed. Oh, then it may be just a lag.
Okay.
So I'll just wait. Like, are you able to see something now?
We can see your slides and the other slides also on the left.
So-
We don't see the slideshow. So
But-
you
Okay, so when I press slideshow, it's not coming, I think.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it's fine. We can use it this way, but we are on why the farm prepared environment slide. So I think we can.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we can just
So
keep going.
probably if we just see like this, you can still see the slides,
that's
right?
fine. Yes.
That's fine. Okay, so we'll do like this. Yeah. So this is a turbulent time for adolescents, and this is something that we should really appreciate from them. And then Montessori says because of this, they need an environment which supports them to go through this. And what she actually says is that the family that has brought them up all the way through childhood is actually not the best environment for them to continue. And that is simply because the family, will still treat them as their own children, which is very obvious, right? We if we have children and then they're going throughout adolescence, we're going to think of them as our children. But what adolescents need are those personalities and that environment where they can experience society. They can experience how society is and how it's functioning and what it's like, so that they can really have those experiences in trying to build themselves and build their personality to become an adult, really, right? And the farm has a couple of many benefits. The first is it's a connection with earth and place. Okay, so this on a purely physical level, the farm brings a lot of peace. It brings an environment whereby there are no distractions. So if you think about urban life, there are many distractions, right? When it comes to either, when you just go out, when they're going on outings, either inside or outside, there are many distractions. Whereas the farm, it is completely based in nature, and it is an environment which is quiet and peaceful, and whatever happens will be because of their own initiatives, right? So on a purely physical level, the farm brings this peace, which will then provide the opportunity for them to introspect and to have that environment for themselves. Okay, so it's on this level. First of all, it's a very it's a place where you can connect with nature. Okay, and I think for India, that's also a great opportunity, because it's an opportunity whereby India, as an agricultural society, we already have those connections to the land. I mean, even in urban areas, all the families, many families will go back to the village, right, to celebrate or to have festivals, or because their roots are from the rural areas and from the village. And if you look at some developed countries like my country, many of those roots are already completely cut. Whereby here, I think we still have that connection to the land and to farming, to the village. So I think that's such a great heritage for us to celebrate and to have with us in India. The farm will also give us an environment whereby we can practice living and working in real society, which is what Montessori says. Because it's a perfect, protected, prepared environment. We cannot send adolescents into the big world, right? Because it's too big. There are so many dangers, and cannot have an area which is prepared and controlled for them. Whereby the farm, we can set up a mini community, a mini society, whereby they participate in all elements of social life, but it is their community, and it is prepared for them and them alone, right? So, and if you think about it, the farm is really the basis of what? It's the basis of agriculture. It's the basis of growing our own food. It's the basis of production. Which is what ultimately our economy is based on, right? Production. And then it becomes a basis for how do we make our own living, right? So in order to do that, do we become self-sufficient? Are we going to trade with others, right? So all of these questions come in terms of how do we build our life, and how do we maintain, develop, and organize our small community or small society, right? So the farm gives this opportunity to do this. We will talk more about that. It is very important as part of this to have that connection to, while the farm is contained and we are building our own society, it is important to have connections to the wider community that we live in, right? So, for example, whereby we have opportunities to sell our products, or to host people in our farm, host events maybe, or to have collaborative, for example, celebrations together. So this is also very important. So they get that experience of connecting to other adults, which is what we want. We want them to experience a wide range of different adults in society and have those experiences. Yeah. The farm is also, then the third point, the farm is also the mother of all disciplines, we can say. And what we mean by this is, if you look at the farm, what is it? It is a natural environment whereby it forms the basis of history, of geography, of science. We say it's a natural laboratory of civilization, because this is where we have come from nomads, and we have come and settled on a land throughout history. And this is where we have tried to create our own livelihoods, right? And we've started our own society as humans. So in a way, the adolescents are going through that process. So if you look at the farm, then you can really see it as the basis for all of the disciplines, which is very interesting and such a good experience for the adolescents. So then what is it? Then it becomes experiential learning for the students, right? And finally, Montessori says that this should be a preparation for adult life. Okay. And I think it does just that. It provides so many opportunities for the skills that we need in order to become the humans that we want to see going out into the world and doing something very great in our lives or for the world, right? So it's building the personality, and it's also giving the skills that we don't get in, for example, a traditional classroom. So they, for example, life skills, soft skills, overcoming challenges, having to communicate, having to establish relationships with everyone in your community who is living with you, with the adults which are living there. So there are so many of these skills which are developed naturally because you're simply living there and having to form that community on a daily basis. Yeah. So how does it look like for us? So this is our adolescent community. Actually, this is the bottom image is a trip we took to see Mysore and the palace. And this is a celebration we had on our farm. Just a brief few slides on the history. So we had all our land was based, which had pine forest in the beginning, right? So this is the very first photo we took when the elementary students came to the farm and the older ones, and they were seeing what the environment looked like and what they would be doing there. So the first work that they did was to see all of the trees cut down and for them to start to plan how they want the land to look like, because it's completely barren. So they had the full freedom to think about designing and mapping out where they want to have their dining hall, their residences, their study hut, and all of that. This is one of the first photos where we were just putting the front gate, but otherwise not much was there. This was our site after some time. So you can see, I hope the picture is big enough. You can see that some things have started, right? That we have a small study hut here in the front, and then we have some farming going on. But otherwise, that's it, right? So we didn't have any residence as of such. So we were staying slightly off campus in a house that was there. And then we were coming daily to the farm. And these were some of the projects that we were doing to develop our environment throughout the first couple of years. So paddy cultivation and harvest, permaculture kitchen garden, crops, a herbal garden, nursery, construction of our dining hall, our workshop, pathways, fencing, looking at our place and our history of the village that we live in, looking at trades, lily pond, composting, water management, square foot garden. So these were some of the projects that we were doing to develop our farm. And these are some of the photos. Paddy cultivation and paddy harvesting. So we got we got a few, like I think it's 700 kilos of paddy, which we use for our daily consumption. creating our lily pond. Our permaculture kitchen garden. These are a few photos of our studies, because of course all of the projects are linked to the studies that we do. So you have some photos of presentations. Study trips are an important part of program as well. Production and exchange is an opportunity that we try to give, whereby the students create their own products, whether that be from the workshop or looking at woodwork or basket making, as you can see in these photos, or anything from making pickles, ghee, necklaces, and work with resin and things like that, soap, candles. So these products they make, and it's not just about selling, it's about how you develop the marketing side, the package. Once you make the product, how will you develop it into something which is worth more? So adding value to that product. Where are you going to sell it? Do you have to create an event in order to attract people to come and buy? Are you going to go and sell into the schools, or are you going to make a shop and sell outside? So all of this comes with this process, and you learn about this. You learn about accounting, marketing, budgeting, and all of that. Some of the P&E events we held. So residential life is whenever we say that the students are living there on the farm, in a residence or in a residential facility, everyone has this idea of boarding school, whereby we have to really explain this is not a boarding school, this is a community which we are living in, and it is really the students' own community, so they have to run it. They have to really prepare their own meals and look at how they're going to maintain the cleanliness, the safety of the site, how they're going to organize their daily schedule, their time for movement or for games, sports, and then what are the activities that they do in their community. So it is really all about how they organize and how they maintain the structure of the community which they live in, which is equally important to all of the other work and study that they do. And you can see such a amazing experience from the residential community. If you're coming at 9 o'clock and leaving at 3:30, there is, you can only do half of what you do if you're a resident student there. Cooking. So we have tried cooking outside. We now cook inside, but you can see some of the photos here, and the dining hall which they made themselves. They've done all the construction work. Yeah, so they play games. They have nights called coffee house, whereby it's a bit like a performance night, where the students will perform some dances that they choose, or songs, or present a poem, something like that. Morning, they have some morning yoga, and or some exercises or something which they like to do when they get up. Creative expression is a very important part of the program because it's part of providing the opportunities for them to express themselves, which if they're building their own personality and figuring it out, and then we need to give as many opportunities as possible for them to express themselves, express their feelings or emotions. And I think that is done through some daily activities, like for example, here they're putting rangoli, and through some arts and crafts, like clay painting. In the bottom, they're making a map of their site. It's also done through language as well, right? So creative writing, personal journal writing, and other such opportunities. Celebrations are important parts because we all love to celebrate, right? So we have a lot of, we celebrate a lot of the festivals here. And then workshops. So a lot of workshops we do around either making our products or for creative expression. So here you can see like sewing. I think they're making the sewing, I think, in the left side as well, or like knitting, and then painting in the right side. So we try to bring a lot of different people who can offer different skills to the adolescents. Yeah, so that was some photos of our farm. Probably you can ask some questions because I'm sure you have questions around this program for the adolescents. Probably a couple of points that generally get asked are around the curriculum. So what do we do for our curriculum? And that is Montessori has given us a very good curriculum for the adolescents. And that's, we try to structure it in a way that we say as work and study. So you can also consider that like a project, but it's where we combine all of the practical work that we need to do with the studies that's involved within that project, right? And this then, because it's work that needs to be done on the farm for the adolescents, by the adolescents, it becomes meaningful and purposeful, right? So we're not just studying something simply because it's there in a book or it's there in a curriculum. We're studying something because it's there to develop our own place and our own environment that we live in. And therefore, for the adolescents, it's very real and very meaningful. And then we do align, obviously, to a board, and that's Cambridge IGCSE board. But we don't follow the books chapter by chapter. Instead, we take out the topics and connect it to the particular project that we are focusing on this month, for example. Yeah, so the IGCSE exams are taken at 10 standard. Yeah, so I think, do we have any questions? I mean, who are with us today? Are parents? Are we all in
Yes.
elementary, or are we different age groups?
Mostly elementary. We also invited CASA parents.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe we can take some questions if there are any.
Yes, yes. You all can unmute and ask questions, any parents, if you have any. Somebody wants to know if Sketches is now pursuing the, any of the Sketches alumni who are pursuing the farm school. So the children have another year before they enter into that age. Surely our daughter Swara is going to go to one. And I'm sure there are a couple of more parents who are very interested. I know one for Julie here. I don't know if Julie is here. Julie is Montessori trained, Zorian. She also runs a Montessori school here in Noida, Greater Noida.
Great.
And her son also. So 2 people for sure.
That's great. That's great to hear. And it's an exciting time in India because it's really taking off, the work, the adolescent work, and in particular looking at starting the farm schools, which is what we want to see, because like we do have, obviously we do have schools which are day programs in the city, and that's also fine, but the farm just gives such a complete picture and such a holistic opportunity to them, which completes the whole framework which Montessori talks about.
So I had a question, Zorian.
Sure.
One was about the exposure to technology, and in the farm, do they get access to computers, and at what age? And then also about general science pedagogy. So are they doing experiments, etc.? In a laboratory environment, is that how it is done, or how is that handled? And the third thing I was thinking about was related to the expanse of the curriculum. So there are things that children are doing on the farm which will relate to the concepts of physics, chemistry, and mathematics, language, etc. But there could also be things which are not possible to do on the farm. You're doing something which is physically not there in that space. So how is that handled? Because there should be some element of studies which are not linked to a project.
Sure. So technology, I mean, there are different levels. We don't allow personal technology, as in like phones and devices and all that, for obvious reasons, because we're living in a community and all the attention should be given to the activities of the community. When it comes to the study-related elements, technology provides a key tool, right? So we introduce technology as such, as a tool for supporting our work and study. So, for example, when we host people, for example, in a community, then the students will take that responsibility to look at the emails to invite them, and those introductions and communications that happen for that. And then, for example, they've actually just recently they've started a blog, so they look at how they can showcase their work on a blog. And then they write request letters, for example, to people. Maybe if they want to go on a study trip to visit somewhere, they will do that themselves. And then also technology is important. Also, we try to introduce, for example, Microsoft to them. If we are looking at, for example, tracking data, for example, can we do that in Excel as one opportunity? I mean, we may do both. Like someone may look at how do we keep a record book? Someone may do that on Excel, for example. So we try to give these opportunities and use them as tools in our studies. Even web developing, we have done a little bit of work on that as well. So, but generally, like especially for the younger adolescents, we maybe 12 years, 13 years, we'll probably try to do everything manually and give them that experience, right? Which is, I think, important.
Yeah.
And then as they go forward, then they can see, why technology is important and how does it improve their studies. So they will do that. Your question around technology
Science,
and then science.
Science pedagogy.
Yeah. Science pedagogy is, I think, very interesting on the farm because we can connect science very easily with the work that we are doing. So I can give a couple of examples, like the pond project that we have done, for example. We we can take physics, chemistry, and biology separately. Physics, we can really look at, for example, what is the method that we are going to use to dig the pond? What is the machine that we're going to use? And then what is the materials that we are going to use in order to build the pond? Like, are we going to have it as a concrete-based pond? Are we going to have it as a lined pond? Or are we going to keep it completely natural? Are we going to use cement in between? So there can be a study on materials that we are going to use. There can be a study on the tools that we use, or the machines, if we're going to use machines that we have. There could be a study on, I mean, even measuring and working out the volume of the pond is such a big task for them, right? So that involves a lot of mathematics and thinking about, because it's not going to be a uniform shape. So how do we calculate the volume of the pond? So that in itself will be such a big task, and a lot of concepts will come into that. Then you look at developing an ecosystem in the pond, right? So if you're going to develop an ecosystem, what plants are you going to keep there? Are you going to keep animals like fish? Or is it going to be a pond that perhaps attracts birds or ducks? And if so, then maybe you need to think about the excess nutrients that's going to come into the pond. And you can go into a lot of study around biology and that areas. And then chemistry, I mean, you can look at all the way from the water molecule, which is such an interesting molecule, right? And you can look at atoms and how the molecule is formed and what are the properties of that. And you can bring in chemistry along with that, depending on the age of the students and what they have covered before. You can tailor what they need to cover. And then so science in that way can be connected. So some things are directly connected in the sense like we need this particular knowledge in order to carry out the project. Some things are related because they are related in the sense like let's say we are studying eutrophication, like nutrients in a pond. Then we can take it not only what's happening on our farm, we can take it globally. How is it becoming a global problem? And how it look like in different countries or even different cities in India or different environments. So then it's not directly connected to the work that we're doing, but it's associated and it's in some way tied and linked to that. Expanding much more into the global perspective. So like that, I think science is a subject that can be very easily connected. And you'll have some projects which are more focused on biology. You'll have some focused more on physics and some more on chemistry. But throughout the year, you have to make sure that you have done projects which cover, all the different sciences. Lab setup is something that we have developed a basic lab. So they have like microscope and testing equipments and basic things like that, which they have used. They also have made connection with a lab, for example, to test all the soil, water that they have in the farm, which has been good experiences because they have been able to do those experiments, go out and do those experiments in the lab. And then we have also a couple of times we've also taken the students to a regular like school lab whereby they have done used the equipment there to do some chemistry experiments and other things which they wanted to do. So we have that flexibility also, like we can go and use what is outside of the farm as well. It is possible for us, and we have done that. Yeah. Your third question, I think, was around what can be like, how do we cover certain aspects which cannot be done practically or in the farm?
Practically through projects or something which lies outside, or you haven't seen anything like that?
No, there are for sure areas like, for example, you take maths, for example, that's the subject which um, it's important to have that practical element, especially when with younger students, we feel, because it really connects them to the practical utilization of maths, like measuring and the calculating area, calculating the yield that we estimate, let's say, of paddy. So all of these things can be done practically, and it gives them a good idea of maths. But then obviously the curriculum 9, 10th and all gets complicated, right? So
Yeah.
in that sense, we will take it as such. We will take it as that this is what we have to cover for 9th and 10th, and we'll build it into the curriculum as presentations and work.
Yeah,
So regular
trigonometry, for
classes.
example, right? I mean, you could
Yeah,
do
yeah,
to
yeah.
some degree. You can look at heights and shadows coming from the sun, make angles and all. But at some stage, you have to go into complete abstraction and do it.
Yeah,
Uh,
you do for sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's needed. And the point is, I think that the students take the responsibility themselves. They, they make the chart in the beginning, and they try to map the curriculum, and then they see, okay, this is what I need to cover in by 10th standard, and then they can follow themselves. Even they can see, okay, chemistry, I'm not really good. These topics at all, I'm not familiar with. I'm not going into this, and then that's something that we work on, right? So. While we do have that project-based curriculum, it's also about looking at the curriculum and seeing what we have to cover ultimately at the end. And then the other thing is we do have other tools, like, for example, we have an interesting thing called Math Seminar, which is a way we try to get students to think about maths and calculations and problem solving without, try to think outside of the box in many occasions. So what we do is we have different questions, word problems usually, which they attempt to solve. And then every week we will sit down in like a seminar format, and we will have volunteers who come and try to or place their method of solving the problem. And then we'll have other student who maybe has a different method of solving the problem. So the idea is not in any way to teach maths or to say this is how we do it, but for the students to have their own thinking towards the problem, and for other students to see, okay, there are so many different ways that we can come towards an answer. And that's actually such a fun experience for everyone. And it usually brings it brings a lot of learning also.
There is a very famous maths professor from Harvard University, Robert Kaplan, who has also pioneered this approach for just doing maths for the joy of it. There are a couple of books that he and his spouse have written. They're not, I think they both passed away. They were quite old, but that approach lives on. So from what you're telling, I think it's very similar to that approach. Yeah. So any questions from parents? There's so many of them on the call. But
Hi, this is Swati here. Sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Please, you go ahead. Then I'll. Please do go.
Yeah, I just wanted to know. I thought, is this up to age 18 or 15 and 16? Because you spoke of 10th standard, so just got a little confused there.
Yeah. So Montessori says that this is up to 18 years. As of now, we have only gone up to 10th standard. Like our graduates, last year was our first graduates from 10th standard. So they have joined other schools. So we have decided to keep it for a few years like this because we feel like we're still in this process. I mean, it's a relatively new program. So we would rather stick to up to 10th standard. And then as we progress, we will see how we develop it for 11th and 12th standard, because we feel that there is, a difference there. We have to, in some ways, separate the students and have different experiences for them than the below standard. So we will take some time for that. Maybe we'll take a few years, and but we'll come eventually for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to add, Zorian, on that because when I was in Chennai for IMF Trust meeting, Kamini Sundaram, who runs Abacus in Chennai, and which is a fairly old school now. In fact, one of the first schools in India that started doing elementary education back in 1999, I think. And that's how, in a way, the elementary education sort of kicked off in India because there were no schools. And from Chennai, then it has spread to so many places. So they have a day school in Chennai, and now
Yeah.
she is also looking at taking the children 12 to 15-year-olds basically for 3 years these children will be on a farm, residential farm. So and then those children will come back to the main school again, and then they will do the remaining levels. So that is another format that schools are now doing. So at least 3 to 4 years on the farm, and then they come back to the main school and do the rest of the grades.
Yeah.
So I don't
mean,
know if
one
she's
thing
this.
Montessori herself talked about was that maybe for those last 2 years, maybe they can live in the farm, maybe live in the community, but then they go out and study. That's one thing she talked about. So I think there are many different ways that we can do it, and it's just about what works and for each program and how it works. But they need a slightly more advanced environment for them to cover the curriculum. So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. I'm
Anukriti.
Anisha.
Yeah, Anisha.
And my daughter is 9 years old. She is in the elementary level. So I want to ask you is what languages do you pursue besides English? Like, is there like in the north we are having Hindi? So there, being in Pondicherry, like, are you continuing with Hindi, or is there any other languages that you also teach to the children? This is my question.
Yeah. Okay. So it is actually mandatory for us to teach Tamil as a second language because we're in Tamil Nadu. So we have Tamil as a second language. We've also had French because we're living in Pondicherry. So it's quite common here as a third language. But not everyone is taking, like, depending on their interest. And then Hindi, we have one boy now who's his first language is Hindi or second language is Hindi. So he is taking Hindi. So it's quite flexible depending on who we have really as students on our farm. Like majority of our students are Tamil. So, we had Tamil mostly as a second language. But it's flexible depending on, how we want, who we have and what we want to cover. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anukriti?
Yeah. So hi Zorian, this is Anukriti, and I have two questions. First is that how do you, since you're working with the adolescent kids, so how do you see their personality develop differently being in the Montessori environment as compared to the other kids in their adolescence? Also, my second question is that what career interests do you usually see kids pursuing after school? What is their inclination being in that environment?
I'm sorry, the second question I didn't.
My second question is that what career interests do you usually see kids pursuing, or what inclination do you see in kids career related being in that environment?
Yeah. It's two good questions. Actually, I have a couple of quotes I was going to show to you. Maybe I can show you now, which I think it's coming from alumni who have completed their degrees also and have talked about the adolescent program. Maybe I can share them with you because it also shows the careers that they decided to go into. So there is this is a quote by Christopher, and he went to study medicine. He says, I also believe that farm school and the Montessori way has created a strive for knowledge and understanding the world by not only combining practical work with studies, but also linking them together by applying theoretical knowledge in practical tasks. The farm school has developed a will to understand this connection between theory and practice in the society. The farm school teaches you things that a regular school does not, such as responsibility, sense of community, independence, economy, and strive for knowledge. All these things are capabilities that are essential for a successful adult life. And imagine learning all this during your adolescence instead of learning it the hard way as an adult when moving away from home. So this is by Christopher. And this is by research who studied biology
Right.
after in a degree.
Yeah.
So she
Zorian, are you
said-
sharing something from the screen, or you intend to share? I thought it's not. It's
I
not
can-
visible at our end.
One-
We
Okay, one
probably reading on your computer. Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'll just go back. If you want to read it, you can also read it, and I'll go to the
Yeah,
next one.
Yeah, we can go to
So
the
that
next
was-
one. I think it's
yeah.
fine. Yeah, please.
The Montessori way of teaching and learning has really helped me with my further studies as I have moved on, as it has given me the ability to work independently with purpose, which has meant I have no problem making myself focus and always meeting deadlines with ease. It has also made me confident in my abilities. I know what my strengths are and what I need to work most on to achieve as best I can. Vilma, she studied business management. She says, I came from a background where I was not given the opportunity to explore my potential due to the education system that was being followed. I had a lot of energy and had difficulties remaining focused on the same thing for a longer period. This led me to falling behind in my education. This all changed when I started at the Montessori Farm School. Farm School was an outlet where I could use all that energy that was building up inside of me in an efficient way. Thanks to my time at the Montessori Farm School, I graduated A levels as one of the students with the highest marks and got accepted to one of Southeast England's highest ranked universities. Yasin studied creative arts. She said, I feel like Montessori really made me more comfortable with who I am because everyone was so kind and felt like a family rather than just classmates. I think being in Montessori let me be as creative as I wanted and really pushed kids to do the same. And I think that played a big role in why I chose what I chose. So as you can see, I think these are 4 different fields like creative arts, biology, medicine, and business. And in here, I think they come up with the idea of being in a community a lot, and also being able to study in the sense like having the capacity to study independently and efficiently is something that they all say, right? And knowing who they are, like knowing their strengths and having that clarity is something that I think we see from these students. And probably having that idea of how things are in reality, how things are on the ground in a practical, having that practical experience behind them. So I think ultimately it's, it gives them such a foundation to go on to the further education. It's a foundation which provides them not only the knowledge, but the skills and the personality to achieve what they want to achieve. And that doesn't mean that, they're going to be the highest and high flying students all the time, but it means that they know who they are and they're comfortable, and that they are want to achieve the best that want to achieve something in their life which they have found themselves, and they're comfortable doing that. And I think that is very important as well. I don't know if that really answered your question, but I think the quotes are quite interesting.
No, very, very, Zorian. Thank you for sharing those.
I had one
And
more
Julie
question,
also.
Zorian.
Yes.
I asked one more question regarding the how do you see their personality develop differently as compared to the kids who are not in this environment?
I think it's about that's what I think. It's about developing or understanding who they are, and as an adult. So I think many adolescents go through that period in a very in a fashion whereby they're very confused, and they don't really know what they're doing and why they're doing certain things. And it's a very confused time, and it's very difficult for many people to help them through that path. And then of course they manage and they get through, and then they go on. So they're all every adolescent, doesn't matter whether they go through Montessori or not, they work it out for themselves, right? But I feel that this provides the adolescent with that experience, with that opportunity to have the time for themselves to work it out, right? So I think it's in terms of their personality wise, they're very grounded, they're very appreciative, understanding. I mean, they've gone through living with a community, so they appreciate everyone who's working alongside them, who's working in a team. So if you think about then how does that translate to skills, right? Then think about team working, team building, all of these things. They're very much familiar with and capable of doing. Whereby maybe you see others who are don't have that ability, don't have that confidence to do that. I think our adolescents from a Montessori background are also very creative and innovative, I think, as well. As someone who has tried a lot, and I mean, I've heard so many adolescents, once they've gone to secondary school or like high school, they've already covered so many things that they're doing there in A levels. And certainly when it came to the project-based ideas and when the case studies and all of that, they're very familiar with, and teachers have been very amazed by what they've really done and achieved, and even to some extent once they've gone to degree programs as well. But definitely personality wise is what you asked, right? I think there is there are these differences which stand out. They're small, right? They're small differences, but they really contribute to where they want to go and take themselves. And that perspective also, I think perspective on what they would like to do in terms of their career. I think most of the alumni I know, like for example from my batch, have studied very interesting things. They've gone to study medicine, but they've gone to study, I mean, they've become doctor who has gone to support MSF. So that's like Doctors Without Borders. And a couple of students have gone to really study about environmental sciences. Even I did that. And then there are some, one student actually, he went with an NGO and then he started his own NGO. So I think like that, I think they have a perspective whereby they really go into a career which is meaningful, I feel. And they're willing to go ahead and do it, try it and try to achieve something.
Hi, I have a question.
Right.
Hi, Zorian. This is Ajay. My kid is with this school, Sketches Montessori. Uh, Let me simplify all the questions which are coming. Actually, traditionally, we as a parent understand that if our kid studies in a traditional system, eventually they will acquire a career which is known to us like being engineer or management guy or blah blah, and they'll bread and butter, they'll secure their life. Now, the broad question is, by going through these systems like Montessori or the farm school or these, we understand broadly that yes, they develop certain capabilities which are not available in traditional system. But then counter questions come. Only how will they be able to, and how much will they be able to secure their life by attaining a career which is tangibly available around us today? That is the core question which worries most of the parents, I understand.
Okay. Okay. So I think then you just have to look at is there anything missing in this program which maybe they're getting in traditional school which they're not getting here. And if you really the more you look into it, there isn't anything really. They're not missing anything that any traditional school will have, because they are I mean, ultimately they're taking the exams at the end, but they're taking the exams, I feel, with a much greater foundation and a greater experience behind them than a traditional student would have. So in that sense, maybe we have to cram and we have to study and memorize for the exam. We take the exam, and how often does that stay with us? I feel like it's often that it's something we do for the exam and then it leaves us. And depending on our passion and depending on what is next, we study for the next exam. But here, I think the foundation is that we are studying with a purpose. We're studying with in a practical way, whereby everything is going to stay with us. Not only the knowledge that we get, but also the experiences, which I think are very important. And that then will translate into the exams and into further education, because it provides us with the basis from which we take the next step. So it's like a foundation whereby you keep building on it. It's not something that is there temporarily and leaves us, but it's a foundation whereby it stays with us. And then we keep building as we go further and further ahead in our education or in our work. So in that sense, I don't feel we are missing anything from a regular education. So in terms of, and then of course you have to look, if you want to look practically speaking, you have to look at the board. So maybe you have Cambridge board. I feel is a very good exam, because it aligns with us and our process, in the sense that it's looking quite is looking at knowledge, using knowledge in quite a good way, and using a lot of evaluation techniques, and it is not simply memorizing and you have to write down exactly what the text says from the book. It's not like that. They use a lot of skill-based approaches in the curriculum, which I feel is it aligns with us much better. And also, if you look at the entrance exams which are now coming in India, right? The entrance exams. I think Cambridge will prepare you better for those than state board, for example, would, or regular education would. So I think just simply because of the methods that's used, I think, and the approach that they take. So I think in that sense, there is no harm in going for, or you don't lose anything when you go for Cambridge. And then when you do Cambridge with Montessori, I think that brings the extra layer that will really provide the foundation for them to achieve something when they go forward. So was your question purely academically or something else?
Yes, no, but the practicality of the system, all the alternative system which we are discussing about. And one more thing you said, that after 10th grade, they return to the traditional system. So how much practically it will be possible for the kids to remain up to 10th in alternative system like ours, which we are following currently, be it Montessori or further to the farm schools or such education system, and then post 10th, if they return to the traditional system, so how much will it be possible for them to adopt to that traditional environment system of education?
Yeah. So I think it's interesting because once they reach 15 years or 16 years, then you will see that they become ready for regular education in the sense that they become ready for what to study in a way that they are studying in a much more, if you like, traditional way, in the sense that they have a curriculum and they need to study for something. They automatically themselves become ready for that. So you will see that they're no longer interested in doing a project with a 12-year or 13-year-old and having to do it in a practical way. They will say, why do I need to do this? I already have the basics. So let us just study and go ahead and do it. So automatically, once you reach 15, 16 years, you're ready for that. So then the question is, I think, are you able to fit into a classroom setting in a regular school? And I think you are more than ready. Maybe it's a bit funny for you, a bit weird, perhaps, but ultimately you can manage that. You can adapt because you've already had that experience of being in a community with so many different personalities. You've had to overcome those challenges, personal challenges, or challenges you've faced in dealing with personalities, dealing with teachers, adults. And then when it comes to your own studies, I mean, many students in traditional settings, they can't manage their time, and they have to be very teacher-led, right? Whereby here they'll be they themselves will be able to manage that themselves. Like all the studies that the teacher's giving them, they'll be able to make a schedule for themselves, how they're going to study, how they're going to make their study plan. All that they are very familiar with doing. So the teacher won't need to keep on telling them, reminding them, asking for the homework, all these problems which teachers have in regular schools. I don't think it will be a problem for our students. So I feel like, they will have to adapt for sure. They'll have to adapt, but they will come with that understanding. They have an understanding of what a regular education is. They will know that it's different. So the adaptation process won't be too difficult. In fact, it will come with skills that will help them.
Can I just add? I think at times you have to look at the education models in different parts of the country to get some idea on these adaptations. So I'll take one example. In Maharashtra board, regular schooling is only till grade 10. And after grade 10, all students move into more like a college format for their grade 11th and 12th. So I've had friends who were in Maharashtra board, and in 11th and 12th, they would be, moving around the entire building, going from one lecture to another, the way we used to go in college. There'll be a lot more autonomy and freedom. Nobody's taking your attendance like the way you do in a traditional school, where you have to sit in a class for the whole day, and the teachers come to you one by one, right, to teach you. That model in Maharashtra has never been there. And these children, after grade 10, even in traditional schools, they adapt to that new way of getting their education, almost like a university model. So there is adaptation that happens for children at different stages, depending on which city, which country, which place they may be living in. And I think most students go through that adaptation, even in traditional system also. For Montessori children, there is already a very strong advantage of having built a very strong foundation through all these life experiences which are coming with this education that are otherwise not there in the traditional system. Um, and and in fact, as a part of this, broader exercise of collecting these experiences, there are also many interviews that have been recorded with some of the Montessori graduates. Niti was in one of the programs, Montessori core principles, where they were sharing these interviews with Montessori graduates. I have seen uh, some interviews as well, which I can share with parents. And before you joined, Zorian, I was sharing an anecdote with the parents that there is a parent in our community whose child is around 5. She's in CASA, or the primary program, and he was teaching students in the US as a part of his PhD program, where he came across some students who he found very different at their undergrad level, because he's taking classes for undergraduates, I think University of Pittsburgh, and he found them so different and so unique. He dug deeper into what kind of education they have had, and he discovered they were Montessori alumni, like they had Montessori education throughout, and that what caused him to pick Montessori education for her child. So there is a lot of course, the number of Montessori alumni is not huge, right? You could probably have from the adolescent programs throughout the world, what, 300 children coming out? I don't know, maybe that's all, right?
Yeah, it's
Could
small,
could
yeah.
just be 300, and now adolescent programs are relatively new, so prior to that maybe even less, right? Because in the US, the first program that started was in Ohio, Hershey Montessori School. So but I think all of these people are doing fairly well in their lives, when we look at that very small sample of graduates. So Ajay, to your question, I think I've also tried to understand this broader aspect. If children are able to appear for a board exam, which they are doing in this case, they are appearing for Cambridge. They will, will be assessed, and they will get their A levels, etc., in those exams, and then they appear for grade 11th and 12th in a regular school. And now when we talk about a regular school, we have to understand that there is also this strong element of progressive education movement that is around us. So when you are sending your child, you're not necessarily sending them to a school where I went, for example, which was, strict discipline, and if you don't arrive in the class and don't listen to the teacher, don't open the chapter, you will be thrown out and asked to stand outside. So that kind of school anyway has disappeared. So we would have environments in Cambridge board, and the schools that follow that board are usually more open-ended, and they provide children with greater learning opportunities, more flexibility, etc. So the programs in Cambridge for grade 11th and 12th are quite interesting when you would to look at those options for children. So and I understand maybe you're coming from the point that there are transitions happening, but we have to see what's the most ideal situation that we can create for our children. I mean, it's a choice that each parent will have to take. One could say that no, we don't want these transitions, and someone else may think no, if we are able to get this experience for 4 years of their life, then I think that gives them a very solid foundation. And then yes, 11th, 12th, if I was living in Maharashtra, there also the child would have to go to a college right after 10th. So there is no 11th and 12th in school. You have to transition at grade 10. So these models are based on which city, which country, which place we are living in, and there are ways and means to work around them. So they're not fixed as such, and things are changing, evolving. There are new boards that are coming up. We had a parent in our community some time back. They've moved to Goa now. His son still goes to an alternative education school. He was heading the operations of SAT in India, which is the test that students have to give if they have to apply for a university undergrad program in the US, right? SAT. So he was working with another private board which has come up in India. He used to meet with all the school principals here in Noida. He knew everybody, had everybody's number because he was their go-to person for SAT exams. And he has chosen alternative education for his son in Goa. He doesn't send him to a traditional school. And when they were here in Noida, the children were here at Sketches. So somebody who is like in and out completely of these board systems, assessment and all, doesn't feel that is necessarily the right education. But yeah, but at some stage, maybe Kunal and Asim is a parent still with the school. I can have you speak to them as well. But that's the only way we can, I think, expand our viewpoint, because there is also this whole challenge of being, fixated with a model that we are comfortable with and that we know about. And when we think about all these things, it puts us in a little bit of an uncertainty and uncomfortable position. So we have to seek varied opinions. We have to meet people who have seen these systems closely, and then based on that, I think we can form those opinions and judgment. And that is the job that we as school here can do. We can provide you the right information through people who are providing the right advice, and genuine people who have the right background and experience. And then, of course, it's for everyone's judgment to arrive at what is best for them and their family.
Yeah. Nishant, I think Julie and Ankita, do you have any different questions? Julie and Ankita
Yes,
had their hands up. Yes.
yes. Hi, this is Julie. Thank you, Zorian, for sharing the lovely pictures. It really reminds me of my teenager days, because I have also spent similar days, not as part of my studies, but also, as part of my life. Yes. So I have also worked on similar projects as a teenager, but what I understand is it takes a lot of time and energy when you go to do these field projects, like, whether you want to grow paddy or you want to do any other project. So how do you create a balance between the studies and these projects, and how many projects are the children able to do simultaneously? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good question. So what we do is we usually, first of all, it's good to understand what Montessori says about work. When she talks about work, she says, particularly for the adolescent age group, there should be a balance between practical work and head work, or studies. And that's because the practical work really helps to ground the student, the adolescents, helps them to work through their work through this turbulent time that they're going through as of now as an adolescent. And so if you imagine, right, like let's say you have a small group of adolescents who are really doing some hard physical work, then that is really a use of their energy and a use of their emotions at that time, which is actually, you will see it's a very positive thing for them to be doing. So we try to balance that practical work and the other other elements of the program. That also varies depending on which country you're in. So for example, in Sweden, we used to start at 9 o'clock and end at 4 o'clock for the practical work. So there will be a small group of students who will do that every day and in some kind of rotation basis. Here we can't do that really, because outside it gets too hot, right, in India. So what we do is we have everyone working outside between 7 and 9. Really on the practical work in the projects or on the farm. And then after that, we usually are inside where we're doing our studies or workshops or whatever else we are doing in the day. So in that sense, there is some kind of a balance there. And you will find that this is also enough. So they were, for example, they're waking up at 5:30 now. We used to wake up at 6, but the adolescents themselves have decided that they want to wake up at 5:30. So that we are doing that. And then between, we have some kind of warm up or some kind of yoga session, small amount of time. And then they do that, what we say, care environment, or basically preparing the spaces for the day. So, for example, cleaning our dining hall, our study hut, making it ready for the day, putting rangoli, making sure the water stations are all there, etc. And then by 7, or they will also make some herbal tea or something for them, some snack, and then they will start their work on the land or in the projects. Then then they have some time before breakfast. They have breakfast. Then we have our study time, which usually starts around 10 o'clock and will end about 4 o'clock with lunch in between. And that may not be full study. I mean, that could be having some art workshop. It could be having seminar. It could be going on a study trip. It could be having an expert come and talk to them. So there are many different things that may happen during that time. And then 4 o'clock, they will have some snack and then play sports usually, or dance as they're doing right now. So something they'll be doing, and then they will then have dinner, and then they will have some time where they either do homework or read a book or play some games, just yeah, that sort of thing, and then they'll go to bed quite early. So that's how the day really unfolds. I think what is your question around how tough was the work? Was that sort of what your question was? Can they manage the work? So the projects we do over a period of like 1 month, where we focus on one particular project. So for example, yeah, any project we do, we try to focus over 1 month.
Okay,
What
so with that project, you touch upon all the subject areas?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Okay.
And so what happens is the project, they do all their work in the project, and then at the end of that project, they will have a big group presentation, and they'll also have sort of a binder where all their work has been kept for that project. So by the end of the year, they will have completed so many small binders for the projects, and along with all of their presentations that they've done.
So
Thank you.
just the last question, Zorian. We are shooting over time. Thank you
Please.
for being here. So Ankita is asking about emotional development of the adolescents, how well they are connected to their families since they will be staying away from their parents for some time.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So you will notice that this is sadly a time where adolescents want to go away from home. And if they're at home, you'll notice that, right? Because they always want to go out with their friends, to go out shopping or go to the cinema or go out anywhere with their friends. Or they will stay in their room and they'll lock the room and they will do whatever they like to do, right? And they no longer want to go for family gatherings, family outings and all that. They become much less interested in all of those activities. So it's actually natural. It's natural that this happens. Which is why we need to provide the experiences for them to have these experiences in a good way, right? So it's important actually in terms of like there should be a connection with the family. So there should be a regular time where they spend with their family. It's not that you go away for a year and come back. You know, there should be a regular time, maybe every weekend, every second weekend, or every weekend is also good. Fine. So whatever way works. Like we have students who see their families every weekend. We also have students who see their family every month. And we also have a couple of students who are boarding for the whole year. So they're seeing their families like twice a year. Because we have someone from Singapore coming. So it depends. Like, and what you'll notice, I think what you'll find is that time that they spend with you, maybe let's say at the weekend, becomes much more productive and meaningful. So you'll find that you'll be able to really communicate with them, talk to them, share your experiences, and spend some good time with them. It's a difficult question to answer because there's such a strong bond between the parents and the adolescents. So for us also it's very difficult, and we've had parents who have taken their child out of the school also because they feel it's too difficult. Like mostly for them it's too difficult, not for the student, right? So it is difficult, I know that, but you have to really think about what is the best thing for them, and what do they really need as of now. I mean, there's always the option of running this program as a day program. It will be much easier for us, to run as a day program, because everyone will be interested in attending. Probably a third or half which are interested in attending. So it will be much easier running as a day program, but it leaves out so much. It really, for the adolescents themselves, they can complete only half of what they're doing now. Like so much work that they're doing in production, in their let's say mostly like production side, art side, self-expression. All of this happens in the evening times. So they love to be together, to have that discussion, to have the general chat which adolescents like to have. It all happens in the evening around doing some production, doing some artwork, thinking about what they need to do on the farm, what they need to do to develop, what they talking about adults, talking about global issues, talking about movies, whatever it is that they are talking about. It often happens in those times, which will not be there if if it's a day program. And then if you have a day program, they go at the end in the afternoon, everything becomes disconnected, disjointed. Again, they come back and they have to start again on trying to pick up what they're doing, which is very difficult. So if you think about all of these aspects, it makes so much sense to have a residential program. And by no way it takes away from the connection between parents and children.
There is another question from Anukriti.
Yeah. So,
Please.
Zorian, this school is from 12 years to 16 years of age, right? Since it is still 10th standard.
Yes.
10 to 16. That is, 12 to 16, 4 years.
Yeah, we tried out 4 years, yes. Like, okay. We have had one student who stayed until 15 years. He took the exam, but usually we try to ask them to stay for 4 years. I know that in India, usually you're taking the 10th standard a bit earlier by 15 years, right? Or even 14 years. Some people are taking 10, but we try to, yeah, Nishant.
So if we see it is from standard 7th till standard 10th, right? These 4 classes.
To standard 10 standard, yeah.
Anukriti, can I just add, for Cambridge board, I think it doesn't exactly work that way because they conduct the exam twice in the year. So if students are, I think, ready by January, then they appear in January. If they're ready by August, they appear in August. So in a way, I think students, if they've completed the curriculum, they're ready, they can actually finish 6 months earlier. There's something like that also.
No, why I was asking is since they'll be transitioning after standard 10.
Right.
So I was just analyzing the age by the time they'll be finishing off the standard 12.
So it will be 15 or 15 and a half, something around that. Yeah. And if let's say it will make logical sense for them to stick to Cambridge. So if they're finishing or appearing for the Cambridge exam, then they should then go to a Cambridge affiliated school itself later. So in Pondicherry, Zorian, right now, is it Vriksha which takes the children back in, right? Because Is that how it goes?
No, actually, no. We as of now, Pondicherry we don't have Montessori 11th and 12th. So
Right.
there is only one school which is taking Cambridge in Pondicherry.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Chennai, there are many options for schools, and we also have 11th and 12th in Chennai. But Pondicherry, we are not yet.
No, but what I'm trying to say, because these students have come from different places, some of them may be residents of Chennai. So if they go back to their hometown, if Chennai is their hometown, then they can choose, the parents can choose a school in Chennai for them. Right?
Yeah,
it doesn't,
for sure.
doesn't necessarily, or the student who is from Singapore would go back to Singapore and then will, go to a school there or somewhere else in India. So that is the transition, and now this reminds me of the school. The parents here have met Ruku when she came here for the IMF talk. So the school that she runs in Chennai, Navdisha, that is also till grade 10. So I see this, I think a general phenomena that most Montessori schools, they find that age around 15, 16 as the age of going back to the what do you call it, the traditional system, so called, so that these children are now integrating with that education model, because finally then they will go to the universities and they will appear for entrance exams, etc. So that's the path, I think, that is there in most schools today for bringing them back, because essentially what we are trying to do here is to create a well-formed individual, right? And this broader idea of the formation of man. And we have taken them through these stages from CASA to elementary and now to early adolescent. And now we feel that these students are ready. We have given them what we could in terms of experience. And the moment you hit this age, 15, 16, we know all countries, whether it is Sweden or it is UK or Scotland, where you did your education from, Zorian, all countries have national boards, right? Which one has to appear in order to apply to universities. So in fact, I don't know, unless a Montessori school actually takes a full affiliation of CBSE, ICSE, whatever, can they really do till grade 12, right? So I mean that, therefore many schools let the children go and appear for national board exams in whichever school they prefer. And Montessori schools at times are not able to take national board affiliations because national boards are so rigid. And they won't let you do what you want to do. So the reason you didn't go for a CBSE is because the CBSE won't let you do what you're doing.
Exactly.
So it's basically picking the best of both worlds in a way, that we give our children this education with this flexibility, with a board that allows that flexibility till the age 16, and then they can integrate to the national board education. And I think this model is what has been successful when we look at schools operating in so many different countries, Australia or US and Europe and India.
Yeah.
And I think we will have more details and discussions around. The children are still a couple of years out. There is one group which is 1 year to go, and there are others who are 2-3 years. So we'll have more clarity and we can have more discussions on this as I start working with the teams. We are also looking at building a school community, like we're working on that project already, Zorian, so parents would have more visibility into how adolescent education is happening in all the different schools in India. So you will hear more, right? This is just the starting of the conversation, but there is a lot more information that you can access before you take any decision and decide one way or the other.
Yeah, well, it's great that you're organizing this, I think, because to share this with parents is very good.
It's food for thought, so that they all begin to look at this aspect. And I think after Niti has spent time in Kodaikanal, she cannot stop talking about it. So yes, so definitely have planted the seed. You definitely have planted the seed. She has even reached out to acquaintance of ours that we know have a farm in Noida, and well, let's see if something works out. But I'm not jumping ahead of myself, but that's the direction that she has already started thinking on. Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you so much
everyone.
for the wonderful session. Thank you, Zorian.
Thank you, parent. Thank you, everyone, to join. And
Thank
thanks,
you.
Thank you
Zorian,
so
for
much.
taking out the
Thank you.
time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.